Hi, my name is Jenny with Howstuffinmycarworks.com. In today's video, I will explain how to replace the clutch slave cylinder on a Ford pickup truck built between the years of 1988 and 1996, equipped with an internal clutch slave cylinder that requires transmission removal. The truck used for this illustration is a 1990 Ford F-150 two-wheel drive equipped with a 4.9-liter engine. For this job, you will need to raise the truck off the ground with a floor jack. Place 2 jack stands under the rear axle and 1 jack stand under each I-beam on the front suspension. Disconnect the negative battery cable for safety. Remove the 4 screws that fasten the shifter boot to the floorboard and lift it up to gain access to the shifter nut. If your truck has an inspection plate on the floorboard like the truck we are working on, you can remove it to have more space. Remove the nut located at the bottom of the shifter shown in the image. Thread the same nut on the opposite side of the stud. As you tighten the nut, the stud will come out, remove it, and remove the shifter. Locate the transmission drain plug and drain the transmission fluid into a clean drain pan. Disconnect the starter solenoid wires. Disconnect the negative battery cable located attached to the lower starter stud. Remove the starter bolts and remove the starter. Remove the drive shaft to the rear differential bolts. If your truck has a carrier bearing, remove the 2 bolts and remove the drive line. Remove the dust shield bolts and remove the upper transmission bell housing bolts. Remove the remaining bolts except the 2 lower transmission bell housing bolts. You can loosen the lower ones, but you need to leave them on to keep the transmission in place till you are ready to separate it from the engine. Use a Ford hydraulic clutch line disconnect tool available in the tool section of our online store to disconnect the clutch line from the slave cylinder. Remove the 2 transmission mount nuts. Remove the upper crossmember bracket nuts on both sides. Place a floor jack under the transmission and remove the lower crossmember nuts and bolts. Lift the floor jack up enough for the transmission mount studs to clear the crossmember. Next, use a pry bar to separate the upper brackets from the crossmember and pull the crossmember on one side till it clears the frame and remove it from the truck. Once the crossmember has been removed, have an assistant operate the floor jack as you remove the last 2 transmission bolts. Separate the transmission from the engine using a pry bar, and once it has cleared the pressure plate, have your assistant lower the transmission all the way down. Slide it out from underneath the truck and set it on a workbench. Remove the 2 clutch slave cylinder retaining bolts and remove the old slave cylinder. Clean the transmission bell housing with brake cleaner. This is also a good time to inspect the clutch and replace it as a set if necessary along with a new resurfaced flywheel. Install the new clutch slave cylinder and apply a light coat of high-temp grease to the input shaft splines. Once the clutch slave cylinder has been installed and a new clutch set if needed, install the transmission back on the truck and the remaining components in the reverse order they were removed. Lubricate the clutch line seal with new brake fluid prior to installation. We have included a link on the video description that explains how to bleed the clutch system once the clutch slave cylinder has been replaced. Make sure you fill your transmission with new Mercon transmission fluid through the plug located on the side of the transmission. Once the clutch has been bled and the transmission has new fluid, lower the truck to the ground and take it for a test drive. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We add a new video every week. Thank you for watching this week's video and see you next time.